Welcome back, guys. Today we're talking about Brian Paulus, the driver out of Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, and his career as a full-time World of Outlaws driver. Yes, Brian Paulus was on the 2002 World of Outlaws video game, driving the Pender Racing number 28. That's the car that you drove if you were racing as him in that video game, and he was with them for all of the seasons that you see here on the board. Had a very long career with that team and was able to get a couple of wins with the Outlaws during his time as a full-time driver with the series. Before we jump into the numbers and things like that, I would like to say thank you to our very first channel member here on YouTube, and that is Blake Dowell. So Blake has been a big supporter of this channel ever since we started and has been commenting and liking the videos and things like that. So Blake, thank you very much for being the first ever channel member. If you guys would like to join him, there is a little link down below. I think it says like join or something. I'm not really sure, but thank you again to Blake Dowell for becoming the first ever channel member here on YouTube. So let's get into the stats for Brian Paulus. 1996, that was his his first full-time season with the Outlaws as a Rookie of the Year contender, and it was definitely a tough year for Brian Paulus. Only had 36 A-main event starts. Excuse me, 36 starts. He did have some struggles throughout the year, missed a lot of features throughout that entire year. No wins, no top fives, only one top 10, and he finished 15th in the overall point standings. So between 1997 and 1999, he does run a little bit with the Outlaws, a little bit with the All-Stars, runs a little bit of the USAC Silver Crown Series, and also runs in Central Pennsylvania, but does not run with the Outlaws. So he goes back, though, in 2000, and he has 64 starts in the year 2000. No wins, 2 top 5s, 12 top 10s, and he finishes 17th in the overall point standings that season. Then between 2001 and 2002, he runs a relatively sizable schedule with the Outlaws, but does not run full-time. Runs, once again, a little bit with the All-Stars, runs with NCRA, runs a little bit of the USAC Silver Crown Series once again, and around the PA area. So does not run in 2001 or 2002 on a full-time basis. 2003, however, he does come back for 67 stars, gets that first ever World of Outlaws win, 2 top 5s, 13 top 10s, and he finishes 8th overall in the point standings. 2004, he'll do it again. 75 starts, once again gets a win. He gets 9 top 5s and 30 top 10 finishes. So that is doubling his top 10s from the previous 3 times that he was a full-time Outlaw. Pretty good year for Brian Paulus, and he ends up 11th in the overall point standings. Now, I have 2005 written in green. In my opinion, this is the best season of his career as a full-time Outlaw. Now, the points may not look like that, but he's able to get 3 victories in 75 starts. He gets 8 top 5s and 19 top 10 finishes. As I mentioned, 14th overall in points, but 3 wins is definitely pretty solid there for Brian Paulus. And then he would not run full-time with the Outlaws again. He does, however, run full-time in 2006 with the NST Series, where he finishes 9th in the point standings there. And then he has a season with the All-Stars a couple years later where he finishes 3rd overall in the point standings with the All-Star Circuit of Champions. Now, jumping into his full-time World of Outlaws stats, his overall World of Outlaws stats in his career, and he's not done yet. We'll get to that here in just a moment. 446 career starts, 5 wins, is 64th on the all-time wins list, tied with the likes of a couple guys we've already talked about, Danny Wood and Brad Furr, along with Jacob Allen, Spencer Basted. A couple other guys are right there in that same position. He has 23 top 5 finishes to his credit. For 5% of the time, he finished top 5 with the Outlaws, and 80%, or sorry, not 80%. If he was 80% of the time, that would probably be the best we've ever seen. But 80 top 10s total, and that is good enough for 18% of the time, a far cry from 80%. But 18% of the time, Brian Paulus top 10 with the Outlaws whenever he showed up to the pit area. Now let's look at some of the accolades and some of the things that Brian Paulus has done in his career. He was 7th at the 2004 National Open at Williams Grove Speedway. He was 8th at the 2005 Knoxville Nationals, 9th at the 2002 Historical Big One, and 4th at the 2004 Kings Royal. He was 9th at the 1998 Tuscarora 50. So top 10s at all of the biggest races that you could think of in sprint car racing. Brian Paulus was there. He didn't obviously win any of them, but he was in the top 10 and showed that he had speed to contend with some of the best in sprint car racing, especially at a time that is just such a prolific time in sprint car racing where the best guys of all time were still racing back then. You know, Sammy, Steve, Lasowski, guys like that were still in their prime of their career, and Brian Paulus was mixing it up with them back then. He was third, as I mentioned a moment ago, with the All-Stars in points in 2007. He has 2 career victories at the Williams Grove Speedway in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. And in 2005, he actually started on the front row of the Knoxville Nationals. That was the year that Craig Kinzer won. Brian Paulus started second in that Knoxville Nationals feature, and he would go on to finish 8th in that main event. So good stuff there from Brian Paulus. And as I mentioned a moment ago, he's not done yet. It was announced very recently that he is actually going to be racing full-time at Knoxville this year in the number 10 car. I think the car owner's name, Mike Vander Ecken. Really hope I said that right. I tried to remember it. It was Vander something. I'm not really sure, but he is going to be running full-time this year with Knoxville in the 410 series. So that is very cool to see. Always great when you can have a multi-time World of Outlaws winner join a weekly racing track on a full-time basis. So hopefully he has some good runs, and hopefully maybe can end up there in victory lane at some point this year. That would be very, very cool to see for Brian Paulus. I was able to meet him earlier this year at East Bay Raceway Park during the high limit racing events, and very nice guy, very down to earth. He was super cool, and hope to see him have a good year at Knoxville in 2024. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Tomorrow we'll be back here on the channel, and I think we might dive into the career of Paul McMahon. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hit the subscribe button. That is free. Hit the like button if you're watching here on YouTube. Comment down below. Maybe we'll change it up. If you guys want to see somebody else that we haven't covered yet, let me know down in the comment section below. We might be able to do that here tomorrow. Thank you again.